Good morning. This is Mona, and this is my morning view. Today, winter edition 2026. It is, I don't know how long this snow is going to be here, but it seems like it's going to be here a while. It's Fiesty Friday. Feisty Friday. I actually thought of, I don't need my scarf today. It's warm. It's 34 degrees. All right, Feisty Friday. Feisty Friday. Let's see. Okay, so I had this thought a couple of nights ago. In the middle of the night, I had to get up and I had to write it down in the dark on a notepad with a pencil that wasn't working that well. All it said was baseball. Baseball. Come up the bat. Right? Or something to that effect. I also wrote a couple of other things, different thoughts, but for that, just that section, that's the part that got me up. That's the part that made me get up. And so I'm going, okay, baseball. To jog my memory, what was it about baseball that I wanted to talk about? And then I started thinking about it coming up to bat. Coming up to bat. So, coming up to bat, it's when you're in the game. When you actually are in the game. You get the opportunity to bat. See, when you're out in the outfield, that's like a defensive side of baseball. When you think of offense and defense, right? Defense, you're holding back the enemy. You're keeping the enemy at bay, right? But when you come up to bat, now you're in the offense. Now you're leading the charge. Now you're gonna hit that home run. Or, sometimes you have to sacrifice your bat in order to get a runner in, right? So sometimes it doesn't look like being the hero, doesn't look like batting it out of the park. Sometimes it looks like sacrificing for the winning run. Those are some thoughts that I have. And I'm sitting there thinking, if all you do is watch the game, okay, they say up in Seattle that the audience is the extra player on the field. And I know there's encouragement to be said, that encouragement really helps those that are out there on the battle. But if you're not actually playing, you're not actually the player that gets the trophy. You're not actually the one that gets the paycheck. You're not actually the one who goes into the Hall of Fame. And nothing's wrong with that, in the sense that that's all about fame and glory and your crown. So I'm not talking in the sense of you want all this fame and glory for yourself. I'm not. I'm talking about actually playing the game. So you have a lot of armchair referees, and you have a lot of armchair players that say, he can't play worth beans, get him out the field. You're not out there. And not to mention, there's only so many players. And there's only so many teams. Not everybody can play at that level. But you can play at your level. You can play at your level. But do you? Do you decide that that's what you're going to do? Now, I'm not going to sit there and talk about baseball so much as just being in it. Stepping up to plate, stepping up and saying, I'm going to do my part, whatever that part is. So during my quiet time this morning, I was thinking about a subject that I heard about this week, and I've known about it before, but it came back to my memory via a YouTube short, I believe it was. And I don't remember who it was. I think it was a short of a person showing a short or a clip. You know. So I was thinking about it this week. And it really kind of goes inside with this baseball thought. And so when I'm sitting there in my quiet time, you know, we're supposed to think about what we're thinking about. We're supposed to be focusing on the Lord in silence, and just noticing what we're thinking about and trying to bring that focus back to the Lord. Well, I still had to do my morning view, so of course my brain went over to my morning view, and I started thinking about this tightrope walker. This tightrope walker. So the I can't talk today. The tightrope walker, back around the 1900s, I don't know the exact date. So this isn't about the guy. This isn't about the date. This is about the story itself. So I'm not going to get caught up in all the details there. But it was around the 1900s, early 1900s, right? Maybe late 1800s. He was tightrope walking across the Niagara Falls. And he was doing all kinds of tricks going along his journey, I think he was riding a little unicycle maybe, or bicycle over the tightrope. He walked over the tightrope. He balanced things over the tightrope. The crowd's just so excited. I may have exaggerated some of the things. I don't know. Because I didn't actually watch him do this. The point is, he was really good at tightrope walking. And he impressed the crowds. And he said, "Do you believe in me? Do you believe I can do this?" Every time he went across, it's like, yeah, you can do this. We believe in you. We believe you can do this. Some of them may have been there for the fall, because some people have, like this sick gladiator, watching the gladiators, type of mentality, brutal sports, all of that. So he gets to a point in his show where he has a wheelbarrow. And he's going to cross the tightrope with a wheelbarrow. And he goes, "For my next trick, I'm going to..." He may not have said that. I'm just, artistic liberty here. Please, artistic liberty. Hollywood can get away with it. I can get away with it on the story. Because it's not about him, and it's about what it brings. "For my next trick, I'm going to put a human into this wheelbarrow, and I am going to tightrope across Niagara Falls with a human being in the wheelbarrow. Do you believe I can do it?" And the crowd goes wild. Yeah, the crowd goes wild, and they're saying, yes, we believe you can do it. And he says, "I need a volunteer." And then silence. They said that they believed he could do it. But nobody was getting into that wheelbarrow. Because the belief that he could do it did not go beyond trust. trust. Without trust, your belief doesn't go very far. I'm always saying on here that belief is an action word. Belief is an action word. You can say you believe something, but your actions show whether you actually believe it or not. Oh, you can believe it if so-and-so gets in the barrel. Well, you ain't getting in the barrel. I was actually picturing, in my silence time this morning, getting into the barrel with one requirement. That I would be tethered with a 15-foot rope. And as I went, that tether would slide along with the wheelbarrow. So that when or if the wheelbarrow should fall off the rope, that I would be just dangling by a 15-foot rope. At least I would have my life. And we could figure out how to get me back to the side safely. So I wanted a belay line. Thank goodness we don't have to put our trust in men. My reading this morning, it said, "What will I fear?" That just popped up in my head. Now, there is wisdom that God gives us and says, I didn't make man so that they could fly like a bird should you fall off the wire. But what do we step into that we feel like we need a belay line, that we need to be tethered, so that if we should fall, that we would be okay? Do you believe that God can catch us? Psalms 91 talks about catching us. Now, I believe that is in reference to Christ. But He does protect us. He does catch us when we fall. Maybe not from Niagara Falls, because that would take some serious supernatural doing. And not that He wouldn't. But you don't test Him with things like that. Where do you test Him with? With your tithes and offerings. That's where you test Him. You don't test Him with other things. So using wisdom and discernment help. But if you are called to do something, I guess a tightrope walker was called to be a tightrope walker. He had confidence in his skills. I don't know if he was a Christian or not. So I don't know if he had confidence in God. But he definitely had confidence in his skills to know that he could do what he said he could do. But the factor is, when you put another human being in the situation, there's other factors. There's weight, there's movement, there's fear. If that person starts to get afraid and starts to get nervous and starts to wiggle, that's why people that do different things like tightrope walking or plane walking or things like that, they have a partner that practices with them, that they know the sequence of what they need to do, and they have a skill set to help them with the performance. But when you just grab somebody from the audience, now there's other factors involved. Do we trust that the person is going to follow our instructions? The instructions are this. Do you trust? There's that trust word again. He was willing to trust that a stranger was going to get into that wheelbarrow and do exactly what he tells them to do. Because any faltering from that could cause failure. Baseball's not a solo act, so when you come up the bat, it's not just about you. A lot of people think it's just about them and their performance and how well they do, and you certainly don't want to hit that last out, the last out. And everybody wants to be the hero and hit the ball out of the field. Sometimes it's sacrificing your hit to get a batter in, to get a runner in. Sometimes trust is involved even in scary situations. Whom shall I fear? That was in Psalms 27 that I read today. Of what would I be afraid? You can use wisdom on whether you're going to get into a wheelbarrow and have somebody walk across Niagara Falls with you. Or you can get God's wheelbarrow. Because he's trustworthy. And he's not going to ask you to do something that would be harmful. Now, I say that knowing that there have been people that are martyred. We're not talking about this flesh. We're not talking about the flesh. Why kill the person that can take your life? Fear the one that can take your soul and your spirit. I kind of said that wrong. And I don't have the word out here with me to say it exactly the way I wanted to say that. But it's basically saying, fear the Lord. You don't have to fear man that can take your life, your physical life. It's your soul and your spirit that needs the protection. And God's never going to ask you to do something that is going to compromise your soul and your spirit. And that's why we can trust him. Because it's not just about this life. All right. That didn't seem very feisty. But I'm sure I'm going to get some pushback on some of this. Because that was another thought I thought during that quiet time. Our enemies. Because of the Psalms 27 talks about our enemies. And I'm like, well, right now I don't really have any enemies. But then I realized I'm on social media. Target practice. Target practice. Because we all have enemies from time to time, and we may get a reprieve. We may get a reprieve, but there's always going to be enemies out there, because if you are following Christ, there is an enemy that is after you, and he'll use people to do it. So, there's that. But don't be afraid. Trust in the Lord. Do follow the instructions He's given you. And come up the bat. All right. Blessings, everybody. Make sure you go over to YouTube. Mona E. Harrison, different than my Facebook profile. White hair, beautiful face. You'll know you're in the right spot. And subscribe. Like, share, comment, hit notifications, get all the bells and whistles. All right. I will see you on Monday. Blessings, everybody. Take care.